Our final thread is titled Rant, Mother-in-law fixated on babysitting breastfed little one. We're across the country visiting both sides of our family with our 4-month-old for the first time. It's a 2-week trip. We're in a different time zone. Our baby has been thrown off his normal routine, which is to be expected. He hasn't been napping well, with the exception of when he's being worn in a wrap or carrier. We've been reluctantly doing a lot of contact naps. I'm going to skip through the thread a little bit because it's a little bit too long to read all of it out. They're visiting her parents, and in-laws live about a 30-minute drive away from my parents. Then she says, everyone is obviously really excited to meet the baby, and despite us making the drive to visit my in-laws every day, my mother-in-law has still been obsessively talking about babysitting while we're here. I'm not against leaving him in her care. I just know it's going to be overwhelming for her given the nap situation and his stage 5 clinger status. The more annoying issue I'm here to rant about is that I'm breastfeeding and she's totally ignoring it. I've been fortunate to have a decent supply, although it's fluctuated. And then she explains how difficult it is to manage the amount of pumping that she needs in order to feed the baby. She says, breastfeeding mamas know a lot of work goes into all the logistics, and I can't just pump out an entire day's worth of bottles on command to send with our little one so grandma can have fun time. Today, she brought it up to me at least 5 times when I was alone with her, trying to get me to commit to days this week when she can have our baby, and I finally snapped and said we would have to figure it out because it's difficult with breastfeeding. I think she called my husband and told him because now he's fixated on making babysitting happen for her. I appreciate that everyone is trying to give me a break for a day, but when you're a breastfeeding mom, there are no real breaks. Even if I could magically produce enough milk to leave my baby with someone else for hours, I'd still have to pump all day while he's away from me. She says, not really looking for solutions because I think we're going to find a compromise and go out to eat close to her house or something so she can watch little one for a short time. We only need to leave 1 bottle with her and his sleep schedule isn't totally wrecked. Hopefully that appeases her. And yes, I know this is a husband problem. Just what is with mother-in-laws? They were mums to babies once too. You'd think they'd be more understanding and cut us daughter-in-laws a little slack. Being a first-time mom is hard enough, especially when you throw travel and breastfeeding into the mix. Now, I'm glad OP here is already at the point where she's like, okay, I know we're going to compromise and figure it out and it's not a big deal, etc. I think that she's taking it a little bit too intensely, to be honest, in terms of breastfeeding. Breastfeeding does not have to prevent you from doing anything at all, taking any time at all away from your child. And that doesn't mean that, I guess it really depends on what you understand by babysitting. So when she says babysitting, I guess what I imagine and what I think she means is that, you know, they'd go to the mother-in-law's house, drop the baby off there, go off into the distance, find something to occupy themselves for 4 hours, 5 hours, even a whole day, and then come back and pick the baby up again. And that seems pretty intense. Like, I understand why that is a little bit weird and why if you're breastfeeding, you'd be like, nah, you know what? That's not going to happen. And I don't want to do that. Fair enough. But maybe the primary problem is just that the mother-in-law wants to spend a little bit more time with her grandchild. And that's not a big deal. And as a mother, you can accommodate that quite simply and quite easily. Like, you can, when you go to the in-laws' house, you can literally just give her the baby while he's awake and go do something else, go to a different room, go watch some Netflix by yourself, go listen to a podcast, go make some food, bake some cookies, whatever you've wanted to do for a long time that you weren't able to do. And then you can coexist in the same space where she hangs out with the baby and she plays with him and she gets a lot of attention, she gets a lot of bonding time, and you do your own thing. And then when the baby is hungry, you can get him, feed him, nurse him, put him to sleep. If you want to put him to sleep, so he can have his nap, and then give him back to the mother-in-law when he's awake again. It's not that complicated. It doesn't require logistics. It doesn't require a ton of planning. It doesn't require putting her in the position where she has to feed him, where she has to put him to sleep and manage his naps. You don't need to do all of that. It sounds to me like the mother-in-law really just wants to spend time with the baby. Maybe, again, I'm projecting here, and this is just my experience in terms of what grandparents usually want to do with babies. Maybe the mother-in-law really does she wants the full experience of looking after him, and she wants to be able to bottle feed him, and she wants to manage his naps and everything else. But then I think you can tell her, hey, right now that's just not possible. This is a hard time for us. He's dealing with a lot of change in a really short period of time. So we will handle those parts, but I know that you want to spend time with him, and you can do that, and I'm happy to help you do that. And that's it. There's absolutely no conflict needed here. I don't think that there is a husband problem here at all. I think if your husband, like if she talks to your husband about it and your husband is like, yeah, cool, fair enough, you can spend a couple of hours with him, then probably your husband has absolutely no problems with it. And if he doesn't understand your breastfeeding situation well enough that he thinks, oh, okay, no, she's really struggling and it's really hard for us to manage right now, then that's probably a communication problem between both of you. Like maybe you should both be on the same page with regards to that. And then with regards to the last point that she makes, where she says, what is with mother-in-laws? They were mums to babies once too. You'd think they'd be more understanding and cut us a little slack. I don't think that mother-in-laws want to spend time with their grandchildren just to be annoying, to be honest. And I don't think it's a lack of care or a lack of consideration of daughter-in-laws when they do that. I think they do genuinely just want to spend some time with their grandchildren. And they probably do think, hey, if I spend some time with him, then you get a little bit of a break. And it's okay to say, as a breastfeeding mom, I get 0 breaks. But it's also fine to have like half an hour off every now and then, or an hour off, or an hour and a half off. Like with a 4-month-old, they can be awake for a pretty long time without needing to feed as well. That it's okay. It's really not a big deal. I find it a little bit sad that people get so fixated, not only like people get fixated on the schedule, people get fixated on the way that they're interacting with their child, and then people have a really hard time being reasonable in terms of what you can expect from grandparents or what you cannot expect from grandparents, and just managing that interaction with the grandparents to say, hey, we're not comfortable with you managing naps because he's really struggling right now and he needs to be close to us, and that's okay, and we just want to support him and help him out while we're doing a lot of traveling. You can just say that. And I really don't think that most people would react negatively to that. I think that's completely fine. So in general, don't create problems unnecessarily if there's no problem there. And don't get so angry about it. The fact that it annoyed her enough that she wrote this whole thread up, and she went on the internet and said, I really need to rant and get this off my chest. And I just don't understand why she's behaving in this way. And as far as I can tell, her mother-in-law really didn't do anything that was completely out there. I mean, okay, it's annoying in general if anyone ever brings up the same topic 5 times in a row. Yes, fair enough. That's a little bit irritating. But maybe people repeat themselves, usually, because they don't feel heard. So maybe whatever response you gave the first 4 times was just not helpful. And that's why it happened. Just a thought. Some of the comments here, you're nicer than I am. I 100% will not pump just to make adults happy. It's too much to ask and not needed for baby when they can nurse at the breast. I'd simply say you're getting X time to visit with the baby, but won't be babysitting. Brenda, move on. Yeah, see, that's the point at which I say, okay, maybe I just imagine something completely different in terms of what she wants. And if she really specifically wants to babysit, and babysit means X period of time completely unattended with the parents totally gone and not within reach, then I guess I would also say no to that. But I think it's fair to say, hey, no, I need to nurse my baby when he's hungry, so I will be close enough that you can get in touch with me and then I can come the moment that he's hungry and nurse him, and that's fine. A lot of people here say, if my husband complains about it, I say, well, how about we hook your nipples up to a pump for 30 minutes and see if you think it's not worth the fight. And another comment that also kind of reiterates the same, she says, that was my rule too. I actually told my husband if he wanted me to pump unnecessarily so someone else can be happy, I would do it, but only after he had the pump suck at his nipples for 30 minutes. So he knew exactly what he was asking of me. I was dead serious too. Needless to say, it never happened. And like, fair enough. Honestly, I have never pumped a bottle for my child. So I can't even, like, there's not even a question in my family that I would do that. And no one would even suggest that that's something for us to do. I think it's pretty much understood amongst everyone that how we feed our baby when it comes to breastfeeding, bottle feeding, etc. is completely our business, and no one else has even attempted to comment. So maybe the part here that's really lacking from my side is the empathy and understanding for mothers who do disagree with their in-laws about this type of thing, and that's kind of why I don't quite get the conflict to the extent that it happens for most people. My husband would also not ask me to pump unless he thought that it was important for me for some reason, like it was better for my mental health to do it, then he wouldn't suggest it. And if I said no, he'd also drop it quite quickly. So yeah, that's all I have to say about that one. I think that in general, maybe a little bit more space, a little bit more boundaries, a little bit more direct communication, and a little bit more willingness to give your baby up for some period of time, even if it's really short periods of time. Like the compromise that I would have suggested would have been to give the baby, let her play with him, put them in whatever setting they're comfortable with. If it's outside, then they can go outside and so on. And I would just be somewhere that's within the vicinity, that's close by enough that if he gets hungry, I can come and help him out, or if he gets sleepy, then I can come and take him, and so on. And that's a pretty easy way to deal with most scenarios. You try to look for the thing that the in-laws, in this case, that the mother-in-law wants in terms of time spent with her grandchild, and then try to accommodate that without compromising on the things that you care about and that are important for you.